What's going on, ladies and gentlemen? Baltmatrix here, and today we are taking a look at Combiner Wars Protectobot HotSpot. He forms the torso of Defensor and is the leader of the Protectobots. He is in the really nice packaging. Just going to do a quick look at the box here for you, and I do want to point out that you can see Defensor's head right there behind HotSpot's. So let's open him up and take a look. Out of the box, HotSpot is the spitting image of his original G1 figure, included with a massive amount of kibble on the back. That's just the ladder folded up, and there's really no getting away from that. Overall, the robot mode looks phenomenal and really does make me remember the love I had for the original HotSpot figure. Now, I do have to thank Vangelis of TFW 2005 fame, or I should say, Internet personality Vangelis, for pointing out that he is badly mistransformed out of the box. I'll show you what's going on with the knees here in just a moment. Robot mode, though, in a static pose, looks very good. I love the dual guns. Just a very solid-looking figure. HotSpot has multiple points of articulation: a swivel in the head, ratchets in the shoulders, a swivel at the elbow, a 90-degree bend at the elbow, a secondary elbow here in the upper arm, no torso articulation, a series of ratchet joints for the hips, swivel just above just below the hip, and a 90-degree bend at the knee. Now, speaking of the knee, he is transformed very incorrectly in the box. He's just kind of put straight up like that. But there's actually a double hinge inside and underneath where the knee is. And you have to be wary of that, otherwise you're not going to be able to get him to stand. So what you need to do is get your finger inside this opening here and kind of push the knee, the first hinge forward until it snaps into place, and then you push the whole section up into this area behind the siren light, or behind the emergency light. And you heard the snap there. It snaps into place. Now, the knees themselves are not that strong. These pins are a little bit loose, but it does the job just fine. HotSpot's transformation is pretty easy, but fun. To start with, flip down the red chest plate, just like the original G1 figure, and rotate the head of the robot mode into the torso. Then bring the fists up, or I should say rotate the shoulders so the arms are pointing forward, and then extend the arms all the way to the outside of the figure and rotate them up over where the head was, just like the G1 figure again. But instead of forming the front of the vehicle mode, this forms the back. Next, we'll take the backpack, rotate it up, unpeg it, and fold it straight back. And I like to actually just turn it and get it out of the way for this next part. Then take the legs, and the way the directions have you do this is turn the legs such that the wheels that are on the inside of the legs are pointing towards the forward of the robot mode, and then unclip the knees and bring the legs up like this. Next, there are these little tabs right underneath the swivel for the thigh, and they will peg into these little tab holes just on the back side of the legs. And you want to do that for both legs. You do have to fiddle with the figure a little bit to figure out how everything moves, but once you get it, it works well. Then bring the legs forward, then ratchet the legs back to their default position, turn the sections around, and they will peg together, and they will actually also peg into this area that is just underneath the crotch. So peg them together, peg the front of the cab together, flip the cab section down, and here we have most of the vehicle mode transformed. The last bit of the transformation is taking this backpack section, folding it up, and getting it such that the ladder and the truck, the last bit of the transformation is getting the ladder into the right position. So with the ladder fully extended, we actually flip it around, peg it into place just over that little silver bit you saw, and close up the back parts, turn it around, and then bring it down. And this section is actually supposed to be pegged into place by these pegs that are here on the arms. So we want to make sure that that gets in there and pegs into place so that nothing flops around. And believe it or not, that's actually kind of important on this figure, because things have a tendency to not want to stay together. Once you've got HotSpot in vehicle mode, I strongly recommend not touching him. And the reason I say that is because things have a tendency to just flop around in this mode. Nothing pegs into place well, and it just comes apart way too easily. In fact, just me lifting it up and putting it on my turntable, the back end here has come undone. So I'm just going to try and get that back into place. It doesn't want to stay. So yeah, robot mode is great. I love the robot mode, even if it is a little bit finicky. But the vehicle mode just kind of doesn't feel quite all together. And let's talk about this bucket section and ladder section for a second. Even though the bucket and ladder section look very cool, the entire assembly is made of very thin plastic, and I'm worried that it's going to break. These bucket areas are very, very thin, very flexible. The sections here, which form the chest of Defensor, very thin, way overly flexible. And the bucket section itself doesn't like to stay together, and again, thin and flexible. Not to mention the hinge here that it's pegged into or connected to. This very thing right here, I am terrified is going to break. It feels cheap. It feels not strong at all. In fact, if I could, I would replace it with something metal or like a galvanized piece of steel. Like HotSpot, I do. I don't particularly care for the vehicle mode though, and I'm not a huge fan of the transformation. Also, the figure has a tendency to just have parts flying off. I mean, these wheels just break off very, very easily, and nothing on the figure feels like it's going to last. Even though it's not fragile, I don't know if it's going to stand the test of time in any respect. It makes me really worried, in all honesty. I just don't know whether he's going to be around in 6 to 10 years. It just doesn't feel like it, in all honesty. Everything feels kind of cheap on this figure. Now, don't get me wrong, he looks phenomenal in robot mode. I love him in robot mode, but I worry for his longevity. I really, really do. That fragility is my biggest complaint of the figure. Now, I don't know, because I only just got him, and I picked him up from BigBadToyStore.com. But I'm worried, as I said, about him being around in 5 to 10 years. As long as I keep him out of the sunlight and put him in somewhere where he won't break, I'm sure he'll be fine. Otherwise, I'm a little worried, as I said. So guys, I hope you enjoyed this video review of Transformers Combiner Wars HotSpot. As always, I'm Baltmatrix, asking you to like, comment, and subscribe, and please be sure to stick around for my next video review.